I'm Matthew. I'm walking the spine of Albion, stirring cultural renaissance and calling forward the emerging leaders of this age.
The tables have started to turn. Talking about revolution. Oh, no.
That's my path. People think I'm on a holiday. This ain't a holiday.
One step at a time. One step at a time. Will you put your hand in mine, dear friend? One step at a time. One step at a time. One step at a time. Will you put your hand in mine, dear friend? One step at a time. One step at a time. One step at a time. Will you put your hand in mine, dear friend? One step at a time.
The folklore says that this is a circle of soldiers frozen in time. That once upon a time a king and his army came here. And when the king got to this very spot, there was a witch who said, "Stop. Take 7 long strides. And if you can see the local town, Little Compton, you can have this entire region." So the king took 7 steps. Couldn't see Little Compton, and with a little witch magic, was frozen in time. So the soldiers are here in circle. And just across the road is the Kingstone, 7 steps away. There's also a little collection of stones leaning in nice and close to each other, just over that way. They call them the Whispering Knights, as if the stones are leaning in and whispering to each other. I find that folklore is often a little bit off, and it doesn't capture with a deep intimacy the real essence of a place and the real meaning that lives there. Some of the ancient myths, they came out of generations of listening. The collective unconscious revealing itself over just hundreds of generations, whereas folklore sometimes has emerged without the same roots and the same integration. I feel like we have a responsibility to call a thing what it truly is, to really find the name of a place, to really hear the story of a place, to the same depth of intimacy as our deep ancestors did. And that takes building our relationship with it, really properly listening, not just going along with what's already here. This is a time on Earth where the story is being rewritten. We get to listen really deeply and know that we aren't just the ones that follow the stories of what was. We are also the ones that learn to listen and build our relationship with, and then tell the true story of the living Earth again. So a bow to the folklore, and also something deeper and realer and more true now. And that's just as true for a stone circle as it is for an entire isle like Britain. What is the meaning that lives in this stone circle? Because it's not military. And what is the meaning that lives in these isles? When I was around about 13 years old, coming deeper into puberty, I arrived into puberty around about 9 or 10, very early. But when I was 13, this quite magical thing happened. I began to attune to, maybe you could say, some of the magics that this being, the being that I am, carries. I think a lot of us have this as kids, and then we dishonor it as we get older, or we write it off in some way. But one of the magics that revealed themselves to me in those early years was the magic of being able to hear the meaning that lives in a place, I wouldn't have languaged it that way as a 13-year-old, but that's the essence of it. To hear the meaning that lives in a place, and also, and maybe a little bit more controversially, to bestow meaning to places. I know that these ideas aren't something that is a really familiar thing in the field per se, but they are magics that are here on Earth, and they are arriving again, emerging again, and I haven't really known what to do with that knowing about myself through my life as time's gone on. And now I find myself as the founder and a teacher in a mystery school. Just as time goes on, it reveals itself more and more. But all I know is that when I listen to these sacred sites, they reveal themselves to me. When I be with them, they show themselves. And I'm not just here to listen as well. That's a bit challenging for some people. There's also new stories to be named in the thing. And I say new stories, but if we do new stories well, they're really old stories. If we do new stories from a place of intimacy, they just reflect in an emergent way that same depth of love and listening that our deep ancestors embodied and breathed life into their stories with. So there you go. There's a little radical declaration. I can hear the story that lives in the land. And part of my role is to name that story and share it. This reminds me of ritual fields I've been in, where there'll be beings off to the side in a little group of intimacy and conversation or sacred exchange. It's just a different magic. The magic of unity and the circle is a different magic to close in, quiet, sacred exchange, real deep eye-to-eye intimacy beings. Then you've got the Kingstone across the road, which really represents the one. They're almost like almost different types of relational magic or sacred relationality. All of us in circle, the one on their own, in listening, in communion, and then the small group in sacred exchange. I can almost feel like deep, delicious intimacy. Can you feel how different that is to this hyper masculinized? That's an army over there. These guys are knights. Just chill. Let's just chill on like the putting men under everything and putting the military under everything. We've done that for about 2,000 years. Let's listen a little quieter now. Listen a little deeper now. I think there's some really beautiful and important messages, reclaimings, soul retrievals in places like this, but it's going to take us looking beyond that 2,000 year over masculinizing everything and really coming into our listening to the love that lives in a place. I'm gonna go listen now. Nighttime coming through Stratford upon Avon. Gonna head about 2 miles north of the city along the canal. Seems to be a pretty good woodland there. I can try. This is a really lovely kind of chic little town. Is it a city? Is it a town? Whatever the case, it has a bit of life to it. Not much rubbish as well, which kind of shows how it's loved and looked after. I've stumbled upon the birthplace of Shakespeare on my way through town, and I thought I'd take a moment to honour the man, the old friend, Renaissance brother, tickler of all kinds of poetry and beauty. So here's some of the favourite Shakespeare / the only Shakespeare I know. The undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to those we know not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sickled o'er with the pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pitch and moment with this regard turn their currents awry and lose the name of action. Hush you now, the fair Ophelia, nymph in thy origins, be all my sins remembered. Little snippet to honour an old friend. Mwah. This was last night's camp. This is the first morning where I've managed to get off before 7 a.m. I think I'm getting better at packing up and getting everything in the bag. And I probably needed it today because it's quite a public place to camp. Not really stealth camping, more super exposed camping, but there's something ancient in a being willing to do something that is not of this world but is of the next. And there's a challenge that you have in working out how you respond to that. Do you turn away from it? Most will. Do you hear it and match it in your own way? It's my dream, I want you to match this. I don't need this to be about me in the end at all. Just want to do this. Can you match this? What's yours? And for now, and in the meantime, when I sing the song of Renaissance, do you know how to sing back? It's a call and response. Renaissance! Silence. Renaissance! Silence. Renaissance! Trickle. It's scary to reveal our essence sometimes because we live in a world that doesn't champion it, doesn't create an ecosystem within which it can naturally be nurtured. I mean, that's a very general statement, but somewhere in there is a capturing of this moment on Earth. I remember when I could walk as fast as that guy, right there. But unfortunately, this is me. I am 3 miles away from my resting place, and normally it would take an hour. But right now, It might take two because I am hobbling and sore. Yeah, I've kind of been reduced to a waddle. The human body is such an extraordinary thing. Like, I was in bed for 18 months, you know, not fully, but quite chronically ill, really. I still have a meniscus tear, and I've managed to get almost to Birmingham. You know, what are we? Probably coming up on 220 miles. And yesterday did like 35 kilometers, like 22 miles. Like, what a thing our body is. Yeah, just sitting in gratitude of that today. Today I get to go to the Shire. Yeah, up ahead is the place that they say was the inspiration, or at least part of the inspiration, for J.R.R. Tolkien's The Shire. The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings. Hello. Aww. And yeah, the Shire is up ahead. It's literally called the Shire. That's the name they've given it. Probably in honouring to the part of the story that it plays. But I don't know if you know some of Peter Jackson's whispers, and Peter Jackson is the director of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, the more recent movies. Peter Jackson says, in writing these books, J.R.R. Tolkien was having an attempt, really devotional crack at creating a modern myth, a modern mythology, a mythology for modern times. And it's actually really beautiful watching Peter talk about it, because you can kind of feel that it's moved him, tuning into how Tolkien's life's work has been this kind of cultural devotional act. Now, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, I wonder how much they are a part of, they kind of anchored into my psyche and became a part of my life, because I feel like so much of my life journey reflects that world in some way. I founded a school called School of Living Myth. I'm out here walking across Britain, literally going to the Shire. So I wonder how much Tolkien's influence has kind of seeped into my being, and his modern mythology has actually become a part of who I am and how I move through the world. That mythology soaked into me the same way that the ancient stories would have soaked into our ancestors, become a part of their psyche and a part of how they move through the world. So in some way, you know, Tolkien's touched me, and yeah, his life's work has become a part of who I am and how I choose to live my life. And with full respect to Tolkien, I feel like he may have just caught the end, like the last century of that kind of overactive masculinization of creation. You know, if you think about it, what is it? There's, you know, 9 in the Fellowship, I think it is, all men. Women play such a small role. They're powerful beings, but they play such a small role in the mythology. And I feel like the Tolkien of today, and you can kind of see the world kind of working this out imperfectly at the moment, the Tolkien of today would have captured the sacred role of women with a bit more respect and listening, the sacred role of the feminine with a little bit more of honouring of the role women play and the sacred art of the feminine. So yeah, I suppose what I'm saying here is there'd be more women in the modern day mythology, and a lot more, you know, and equal amounts. And probably as we swing from this overactive masculinization of creation, of civilization, we're probably coming to a time actually where there needs to be a little bit more listening to the women, or at least to the feminine current. So maybe even if Tolkien was here today, there'd be 7 women in the Fellowship or something like that. Don't quote me, and Tolkien fans, don't beat me up here. I'm just whispering kind of generally, just softly. But if, you know, I'd like to think I'm one of those 2 men. Oh Lord. What is a mythology without a strong presence of women? I feel like Tolkien is getting the remnants, the leftover influence of that 2,000 years of overactive masculine that's embedded in early Christianity that we've somehow still held on to. You know, all of the disciples and men, the church took Mary out of the teachings. What a ridiculous mythology, not having like embodied feminine woven into it. Just absolutely ridiculous. I feel like how could they be so intelligent and so mythically attuned and yet be so far from the mark? You know, so far from the mark. So long story short is modern day mythology and modern day lore is going to be deeply influenced by the feminine current and the embodied feminine. It's going to have a really big part of the dreaming of what comes next. So, you know, this is kind of controversial, but I'll say it anyway because it's my grounds and it's also real. Something like the Bible, it's not actually there to be like a factual piece of existence. It's there to be shoulders to stand on, you know. The Bible isn't there to be like, this is how it's supposed to be, even if it's written that way. It's there to be for us to stand on those shoulders, to stand on that law, to stand on that teaching, and to see further than they ever could. Yes, even the disciples. Yes, even their interpretations of the masters. We get to see further than those who came before us, even the great ones. And it's actually not just an opportunity, it's actually a part of the responsibility of those coming through to refine that which once was, to be touched by it, but also to refine it. And you'll see that over the next 2,000 years. Well, you won't see it, but over the next 2,000 years, things like the Bible will radically evolve, change. In fact, they probably, hello. In fact, they probably won't exist anymore. All religions are going to get a major shake-up, probably over the next 100 years, actually. AI is going to play a really big role in that. So the religions are going to have to kind of hold on to their socks because things are going to heat up really quickly, really soon. And we're going to kind of awaken to the nature of creation, which is evolutionary. And those teachings, which once were kind of the fabric of human society, they have to change and evolve, and we have to be in intimate listening to be a part of that evolutionary law that actually holds society through evolutionary consciousness, through the great change of life on Earth that is never ending. I am coming through Birmingham right now on my way up the Spine of Albion, walking from the south of Isle of Wight all the way to Durness in Scotland's far north. It's a much better day than recently. I've had blisters and I've got a stress fracture in my left foot and all sorts of things are going on. Got my backpack back. This is like the never-ending suburban Birmingham. Just keeps on going and going. Houses, highways, shopping centres. And this is a part of it. This is where we are. And the Spine of Albion goes right along this road. Not sure if you can see me all that well, but I just had a really scary kind of ghost-like encounter. Oh God, I was trying to get through a thicket, like this massive thicket. And it sounded like there was people all around me. Well, I thought I was going to be camping here tonight on top of this hill overlooking Birmingham. It's cold, but I get to stay with Benjamin and Christina. Yeah. So I'm just packing my tent up now. I'm going to meet Benjamin just down the road. Yeah, really lucky. Thank you, guys. I can hear footsteps all around me, on both sides and behind me. It's really dark, but I can see enough. I'm in the Great Meadow just north of Birmingham. It's this big, huge meadow. It's quite spectacular, really, in some ways. And I can see just enough to see there's no people there, but there are footsteps, and it's really freaky. It's just some of the creepiest moments I've ever experienced in my life. Yeah, I don't really know how to explain that one. It is what it is. Don't want to make a big deal out of it, but it scared me. You know, when you do things of this nature, you're kind of opening yourself to the unexplainable, opening yourself to the mystery. And it means opening yourself in some way to that which you don't understand. So yeah, definitely having an experience of that which I don't understand right now. But now I feel safe. Hello. So I got to sleep in a bed last night. Had the absolute luxury of getting to stay at Benjamin and Christina's. It was a creepy night as well. It was a really creepy night. So I'm so glad that I managed to get here and spend the night here. We stayed up until like 1 a.m. just chatting and laughing and sharing stories. It was really lovely. And I've just slept until like 11 a.m. My body has really needed it. I'm gonna go downstairs and have a coffee, some breakfast. Yeah, get into this day. And tonight I have my very first class as part of School of Living Myth, which is the mystery school I founded. And yeah, just have to put some finishing touches on tonight's class, which is about ancestral reconciliation. Proper good medicine, good country. Oh yes. Who's your nation? I feel like it's really important I share my thanks and appreciation for these two beings, Benjamin and Christina. The food has been plentiful and nourishing. The cuddles have been hourly and the conversations have been so rich and deep and meaningful. And I'm just so grateful to have this opportunity to rest and restore and
be in this family field. Yeah, thank you guys. I love you.
Look at this. You see this guy walking along the Spine of Albion and calling for Renaissance. You know, what's that even all about? Doesn't really fit into the world. Well, I can tell you, you know, as a starting point, we need things that don't fit into the world right now. Things that don't fit into the world, particularly things that are born out of love and listening. We need that right now.